Rand had spent 12 years studying species across the galaxy. He had watched them conduct their ritual hunts. He had observed the raiders tear through defenseless cargo ships. He had documented the cold efficiency of the Vellum war machines. Nothing had prepared him for humans. He stood at the observation window of the neutral station, watching the blue and green moon below. The diplomatic corps had assigned him to this remote sector for one simple reason. Humans were becoming important, and the Galactic Council needed accurate information about them. Not the wild stories that traders told in station bars. Not the exaggerated reports that made humans sound like immortal warriors. Real, documented observations. Senior Observer clicked his mandibles beside him. The older had been studying humans for 3 decades, and Rand respected his experience. "You still believe the reports are exaggerated," said. It was not a question. Rand flexed his antennae in mild disagreement. "I believe that every species embellishes its military history. The humans are no different. Their federation is young. They need legends to inspire their people." Made a sound that might have been laughter. "Perhaps you are right. Perhaps today you will see ordinary soldiers doing ordinary things." Before Rand could respond, the station's communication system activated. A human voice filled the observation deck, calm and professional. "Neutral Station 7, this is Captain Laura of the USS Steadfast. We are receiving a distress signal from the transport vessel Harmony. They report 12 raider ships on intercept course. 3,000 civilians aboard, including families. We are moving to assist." Rand pulled up the tactical display and felt his thorax tighten. The Steadfast was a single destroyer, capable, certainly, but designed for patrol duties and light combat. 12 raiders represented overwhelming force. The mathematics were simple and brutal. The human ship would be destroyed in minutes. He expected the captain to request support. He expected her to announce a strategic withdrawal to gather reinforcements. Instead, the communication continued. "Estimated engagement in 47 minutes. Steadfast out." Rand turned to, "She cannot be serious. 1 ship against 12, this is suicide." Was already moving toward the shuttle bay. "Then perhaps you should observe this suicide firsthand. I will contact the Steadfast and request permission for you to join them." The request was granted with surprising speed. 20 minutes later, Rand found himself standing on the bridge of a human warship, surrounded by creatures he had only studied from a distance. They were smaller than he expected, soft-skinned and fragile-looking, with none of the natural armor that protected most warrior species. Captain stood at the center of the bridge, a woman of perhaps 40 years with short brown hair and eyes the color of steel. She acknowledged Rand with a brief nod. "Observer, welcome aboard. You can stand near the rear console, stay out of the way and you will be fine." Rand positioned himself as instructed and began recording. Around him, the human crew prepared for battle. They moved with practiced efficiency, checking systems and confirming readiness. What struck him immediately was their demeanor. They were not tense or frightened. They were focused. A tall man with broad shoulders approached the captain. Rand identified him from his research as Commander Daniel Cole, the executive officer. "All stations report ready, Captain. Weapons hot, shields at maximum." Nodded, time to intercept. 31 minutes. Rand could not remain silent. "Captain, I must speak. The tactical situation is impossible. You are outnumbered 12 to 1. Raiders are not sophisticated, but their combined firepower will overwhelm your defenses in the first exchange. Surely negotiation or retreat would be the logical response." Turned to look at him. Her expression was not angry or dismissive. She seemed almost curious. "Observer, what do they do with prisoners?" Rand knew the answer. Everyone knew the answer. "They take slaves. They sell them to the mining colonies in the outer systems. And the transport we are moving to protect carries 3,000 civilians, families, children. voice remained calm. "If we retreat, how many of those children become slaves?" "All of them," Rand admitted. "But if you engage, you will die. Your entire crew will die, and the transport will still be captured." Smiled slightly. It was not a happy expression. "That is one possible outcome, but they expect easy prey. They expect the transport to surrender, and they expect any military response to be measured and cautious. They do not expect someone to fight them, because fighting them is irrational." "Maybe," turn back to the, "but while they are fighting us, the transport runs. Every minute we keep them busy is a minute those families get closer to safety." Commander Cole spoke without looking up from his console. "Captain, the transport confirms they are making for the jump point. 43 minutes to safe distance." Rand calculated quickly. "You cannot survive 43 minutes against that fleet." "Probably not," Cole agreed. The casualness of the admission shocked Rand more than anything else. These humans knew they were going to die. They had done the mathematics just as he had, and they were proceeding anyway. A young woman at the weapons console, Lieutenant Amy Price, called out coordinates and firing solutions. Near the front of the bridge, Ensign Torres plotted approach vectors. Everyone had a task. Everyone performed their duties as though this were a routine patrol. Rand moved closer to Captain. "Why? I do not understand. You owe nothing to those civilians. They are strangers to you. Why would you sacrifice your crew for people you have never met?" Was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft but clear. "Because if we do not, who will? Because those children deserve a chance to grow up. Because my crew took an oath to protect the innocent, and today that oath means something." She paused. "You asked why we would die for strangers. The answer is simple: because they need us. That is enough." Rand had no response. He stood in silence as the Steadfast accelerated toward the enemy fleet, carrying 198 humans, and one very confused observer toward almost certain death. The tactical display showed the ships growing closer. 12 red icons arranged in an attack formation. One blue icon moving to meet them. This was madness, Rand thought. Beautiful, terrifying madness. And he was about to witness it firsthand. The bridge of the Steadfast hummed with quiet energy as the ship drew closer to the enemy fleet. Rand watched the humans around him with growing confusion. He had observed many species prepare for combat. They entered a hunting trance, their pupils dilating as ancient instincts took control. They worked themselves into a frenzy of screaming and weapon brandishing. Even the logical vellum showed measurable increases in processing speed as battle approached. The humans did none of these things. They simply continued working. Lieutenant Amy Price ran diagnostic checks on the weapon systems for the third time. Ensign Torres made minute adjustments to their approach vector. Commander Cole reviewed crew assignments with quiet efficiency, and Captain stood at the center of it all, watching with calm attention. Rand noticed other behaviors that seemed out of place. A young officer near the communication station was showing pictures on a small device to the woman beside him. They were smiling. Two men at the engineering console were engaged in what appeared to be a humorous exchange, their voices too low for Rand to hear clearly. Near the back of the bridge, a female officer had closed her eyes and was moving her lips silently. Prayer, perhaps. "You find our behavior strange," Commander Cole said, appearing beside Rand without warning. "I find it incomprehensible," Rand admitted. "You are approaching certain death, yet your crew behaves as though this is an ordinary day." Cole nodded slowly. "This is how humans cope with fear. We focus on what we can control. We take comfort in routine, and we remind ourselves of what matters." The pictures that officer was showing. His daughter, she turned 3 last month. Cole's expression softened briefly. He wants to remember her face. Rand felt something uncomfortable stir in his thorax. Among such sentimentality would be considered a weakness. Warriors were expected to empty themselves of attachment before battle, becoming pure instruments of combat. The humans seemed to be doing the opposite. They were filling themselves with reasons to fight. The communication system crackled, and a harsh voice filled the bridge. The commander, speaking in heavily accented common tongue. "Human vessel, you approach our hunting ground. You are 1 against 12. Surrender now and we will add you to our cargo. Resist and we will destroy you, then take what remains." Captain stepped forward. Her voice was steady and cold when she replied. "Fleet, this is Captain Laura of the United Earth Federation. You are targeting a civilian transport under our protection. Break off your pursuit immediately or face the consequences." Laughter echoed through the speakers, cruel, mocking laughter. "Consequences? Little human, you are the one facing consequences, but I admire your spirit. Perhaps we will not kill you. Perhaps you will serve well in the mines. Your species is stronger than it looks." Did not respond to the taunt. She simply closed the channel and turned to her crew. "All hands battle stations. This is not a drill." Ran had expected some kind of dramatic shift, a change in the atmosphere perhaps, shouting, running, visible fear. Instead, the quiet focus simply intensified. The laughter and soft conversation stopped. Every human on the bridge turned their full attention to their tasks. "Weapons hot," Price reported. "Shields at maximum," another officer confirmed. "All decks report ready," Cole announced. Nodded, time to intercept. 14 minutes, Torres replied. Rand studied the tactical display. The fleet had formed a crescent formation, designed to envelope and overwhelm a single target. Standard raider tactics, effective against merchants and lightly armed vessels. The Steadfast would be surrounded within moments of engagement. "Captain," he said carefully, "I must ask once more. Surely there is a better strategy than direct confrontation. Perhaps a feint or a series of hit-and-run attacks to delay them." Shook her head. "No time for that. Every minute we spend on clever maneuvers is a minute the transport remains in danger. We need to hold their attention completely. All of it. By dying in front of them. By fighting in front of them." Turn to face him fully. "Observer, you keep speaking of our death as certain. Perhaps you are right, but nothing is truly certain until it happens. I have seen impossible battles won through determination and luck. I have seen the mathematics of war proven wrong by human stubbornness. And if the mathematics prove correct today?" His expression did not change. "Then we die doing something that matters. There are worse fates." Commander Cole leaned closer to Rand. "You should know something about humans. We do not measure victory the same way other species do. Survival is not always the goal. Sometimes the goal is simply to make sure the enemy pays such a high price that they hesitate before attacking again." "You want to hurt them," Rand realized. "I want to save those civilians," Cole corrected. "Hurting them is just how we accomplish that." The tactical display showed the fleets drawing closer. 8 minutes now. Then 7. They maintained their formation, confident in their overwhelming numbers. They had no reason to be afraid of one small destroyer crewed by soft-skinned mammals. Rand wondered if they had ever faced humans before. He suspected they had not. They operated in the outer territories, far from human space. Their knowledge of humanity probably came from the same exaggerated stories that Rand himself had dismissed. They were about to receive a very different education. Captain's voice cut through the silence. "All hands, this is the captain. In a few minutes we will engage a superior force. The odds are against us. I will not pretend otherwise, but we are not fighting for ourselves today. 3,000 innocent people are counting on us to buy them time. That is our mission. Hold the line, keep their attention, and know that whatever happens, we do this together." A murmur went through the bridge. Not fear, Rand realized. Agreement, acceptance. "For the harmony," someone said quietly. "For the families," another voice added. Nodded, "For all of them." The fleet filled the now, growing larger with every second. 12 ships bristling with weapons, crewed by raiders who had never known mercy. And one human destroyer moving to meet them, crewed by people who simply refused to let innocent children become slaves. Rand tightened his grip on the console behind him and prepared to witness what humans called war. The first volley lit up with deadly fire. Rand instinctively flinched as brilliant energy beams streaked toward the Steadfast. The ship shuddered violently as the shields absorbed the impact. Shields holding at 82%, an officer reported. "Return fire," Captain ordered. Her voice was as calm as if she were ordering lunch. Lieutenant Price did not hesitate. The Steadfast weapons blazed to life, sending precise bursts of energy into the approaching fleet. Rand watched in surprise as one of the raiders took a direct hit to its engine section. The ship wobbled, trailing smoke and debris. "Target damaged," Price announced, continuing engagement. The fleet responded with fury. They had not expected the humans to strike first, and they certainly had not expected to take damage so quickly. The crescent formation tightened, and all 12 ships began pouring fire at the Steadfast. The destroyer twisted and rolled through space with impossible grace. Rand had studied human vessels in simulations, but nothing had prepared him for seeing one in actual combat. The Steadfast moved like a living thing, dodging between energy beams, using the nearby moon's gravity to slingshot through attack patterns that should have been impossible. "Coming around for another pass," Ensign Torres called out, using the moon's shadow for cover. "Nodded. Good, keep them guessing." The ship dove toward the moon's surface, skimming so close that Rand could see individual craters flashing past on the. The ships hesitated, unwilling to follow into such dangerous terrain. "They are pulling back to regroup," Cole observed. "Then we do not give them time," pointed at the tactical display. "Target the command ship, everything we have." The Steadfast burst from the moon's shadow like a predator emerging from darkness. The weapons console lit up as Price fired every available system at the largest vessel. The Raiders' shields flickered and failed. Explosions rippled across its hull. "Direct hit," Price reported with satisfaction. "Their flagship is crippled." The responded with rage. 9 ships converged on the Steadfast simultaneously, filling space with weapons fire. The destroyer could not dodge everything. Impacts rocked the bridge as shots penetrated the weakening shields. "Shields at 41%, someone shouted. "Hull breach on deck 7, another voice added. "Casualties reported in engineering," Cole said grimly. "Did not flinch. Seal the breaches, reroute power to the forward shields, Price keep firing." Rand found himself gripping the console so tightly that his claws were leaving marks in the metal. This was not combat as he understood it. This was chaos and violence, and somehow, impossibly, the humans were thriving in it. An explosion tore through the port side of the bridge. Rand was thrown to the ground as fire and debris scattered across the room. When he looked up, he saw something that would haunt him forever. Lieutenant Price was injured. Shrapnel had torn through her arm and blood was running freely down her uniform. But she was not screaming. She was not fleeing. She was pulling herself back to her console with her good hand, smearing blood across the controls as she resumed firing. "I am still operational," she said through gritted teeth. A medic rushed toward her. She waved him off. "Help the others first. I can still shoot." Rand looked around the bridge. At least 4 humans were wounded. One was clearly dead, slumped over his station with empty eyes, and yet the survivors continued working. They stepped over the body of their fallen comrade and maintained their positions. How were they doing this? How could any species witness death and injury among their own kind and simply continue fighting? "Transport update," Torres called out. "The Harmony is 29 minutes from the jump point." "Then we hold for 29 more minutes," replied. Another explosion, another shudder, another voice calling out damage reports. The Steadfast was dying. Rand could see it in the flickering lights, feel it in the groaning metal. The ship was taking punishment that would have destroyed any vessel he had ever studied. But it was also fighting back. A second raider erupted in flames as the human weapons found a critical weakness. Then a third. The raiders were learning a terrible lesson about human persistence. Enemy ships are spreading out, Cole observed. They are being more cautious now. Good, said. Caution takes time, time works for us. Rand found his voice. Captain, your ship cannot sustain this damage. You have already lost crew members. The logical action would be to withdraw now while the regroup. Turned to look at him. Blood was running from a cut on her forehead, but her eyes were steady. The transport is not safe yet. But your people are dying. Yes, the word hung in the air. The expression showed something Rand had not seen before. Pain, grief, but underneath it, unshakable resolve. They knew the cost when they took this assignment. We all did, and we decided together that some things are worth dying for. A young officer, barely more than a boy, rushed to take over the station of his fallen comrade. His hands were shaking, but he assumed the position and began working immediately. No one ordered him to do it. No one forced him. He simply saw what needed to be done and did it. 22 minutes to jump point, Torres announced. 22 more minutes of this. Rand did not know if he could survive watching it, let alone the humans who were actually fighting. The Steadfast dove back into battle, a wounded ship crewed by wounded people, and refused to stop fighting. They had more ships, they had more weapons, they had every advantage that mathematics could measure. But they did not have whatever burned in the hearts of these impossible humans. And for the first time, Rand began to wonder if the stories were not exaggerations after all. The Steadfast was burning. Rand could see flames through the damaged sections of the hull, could smell smoke and something worse filling the bridge. Emergency lights cast everything in a harsh red glow. Half the consoles were dark or sparking, and still, impossibly, the humans fought on. Captain stood at the center of the chaos like a pillar of stone. She had refused medical treatment for the gash on her forehead, refused to sit despite the shrapnel embedded in her side. Blood stained her uniform, but her voice remained steady as she issued orders. Status report. Commander Cole checked his damaged console. 53 crew confirmed dead, 27 wounded, shields are gone, hull integrity at 31%. We have lost main weapons. Only the forward batteries remain operational. Engine status. We can maneuver, but barely. Chief is holding the reactor together with willpower and prayer. Nodded slowly, and the enemy. 5 ships destroyed, 2 more heavily damaged and withdrawing. That leaves 5 still combat effective. Cole paused. They have stopped their advance. Rand looked at the tactical display and felt a chill run through his thorax. Cole was right. The remaining ships had pulled back, forming a defensive cluster instead of pressing their attack. They were no longer hunting. They were waiting. They are afraid, Rand said with disbelief. They are learning, corrected. They came here expecting easy prey. Now they have lost 7 ships to a single destroyer. That was not in their calculations. The communication system crackled. The commander's voice was different now. Gone was the mocking confidence from earlier. In its place was something that sounded almost like respect. Human captain, you have fought well, better than any prey we have encountered. We offer you terms. Surrender now and we will spare your surviving crew. Continue fighting and we will destroy you completely. Looked around the bridge, at the dead lying at their stations, at the wounded still working their consoles, at the young officer who had stepped into his fallen comrade's position and had not stopped fighting since. Commander, this is Captain. I have a counteroffer. Withdraw now and we will let you live. Continue pursuing the transport and I will personally ensure that none of your ships leave this system. Laughter came through the speakers, but it was uncertain now, nervous. You have no weapons left, your ship is crippled, you cannot threaten us. Smiled, it was not a pleasant expression. I have one weapon left, this ship, and I am prepared to drive it straight through your flagship at maximum speed. She paused. Our reactors are damaged, Commander. If we collide, they will breach. The explosion will take everything within 1,000 kilometers. Silence on the channel. Rand stared at the captain. She was not bluffing. He could see it in her eyes, in the set of her jaw. She would actually do it. She would kill herself and her entire remaining crew just to destroy one more enemy ship. Commander Cole spoke quietly. Captain, there may be another way. The escape pods are still functional. You could evacuate the remaining crew and I will pilot the ship on the ramming course. No. Laura. It was the first time Rand had heard Cole use her first name. You do not have to die here. Someone needs to tell their families what happened. Someone needs to make sure the Federation knows what we did today. Turn to face her old friend. And that someone will be you, Daniel. You will take the escape pods and you will survive. That is an order. I refuse. You do not get to refuse. The argument might have continued, but a new voice interrupted. The transport captain, Gary Mitchell, his transmission cutting through the tension on the bridge. USS Steadfast, this is Captain Mitchell of the Harmony. We have reached the jump point. All 3,000 civilians are safe, preparing for faster-than-light transit in 60 seconds. His voice cracked with emotion. We saw what you did for us. We will never forget. Thank you all. Closed her eyes for just a moment. When she opened them, tears were mixing with the blood on her face. Harmony safe travels, Steadfast out. The tactical display showed the transport's icon winking out as it jumped to safety. 3,000 people, including all those children, were beyond the reach of the Forever. The mission was complete. But the ships remained, and the Steadfast was in no condition to fight. Opened a channel to the commander one final time. The transport is gone. You have lost your prey. You have lost 7 ships. You can leave now with the 5 you have left, or you can stay and lose everything. Choose quickly. My patience is running out and my finger is on the collision course button. Rand watched the tactical display. The ships did not move for a long moment. Then slowly they began to turn away. One by one they oriented toward open space and accelerated out of the system. They were retreating. Commander Cole let out a breath he seemed to have been holding for hours. They are leaving. All 5 ships are withdrawing. A ragged cheer went up from the surviving bridge crew. Some were crying, some were laughing, most were doing both. Did not celebrate. She leaned heavily against her command chair, finally allowing the exhaustion and pain to show on her face. Get us back to the station, she said quietly, and start preparing the casualty reports. Every name. I want to know every name. Rand found that his legs were shaking. He had witnessed many battles. He had seen species kill and die across a dozen systems, but he had never seen anything like this. He had never seen a group of beings so willing to sacrifice everything for people they had never met. The Steadfast limped toward the neutral station, trailing debris and smoke, carrying the bodies of its dead and the memories of its impossible victory. And Rand knew that he would carry those memories too, for the rest of his very long life. 3 days had passed since the battle. 3 days since the Steadfast had limped back to the neutral station with 47 survivors out of 200 crew. 3 days since Rand had witnessed something that had fundamentally changed his understanding of the universe. He had not slept properly since then. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw human faces. Lieutenant Price firing weapons with blood running down her arm. The young officer taking over a dead man's station without hesitation. Commander Cole arguing with his captain about who would have the honor of dying. And Captain standing in the center of a burning bridge, offering to ram her own ship into the enemy because 3,000 strangers needed more time to escape. Senior observer found him in the station's observation lounge, staring at the stars. "You have not submitted your report," said, settling beside him. "I do not know how to write it." "That does not sound like you. You have always been precise with your documentation." Rand turned to face his mentor. "How do I document what I witnessed? How do I explain to the Galactic Council that every report we dismissed as exaggeration was actually an understatement?" Was silent for a moment. "You understand now why I stopped dismissing those stories." "I understand nothing." Rand's antennae twitched with frustration. "I watched them die. I watched humans take injuries that would incapacitate any sensible species, and they simply continued fighting. I watched them mourn their dead while still engaging the enemy. I watched their captain threaten to destroy her own ship and everyone aboard just to take one more enemy with her. And this troubles you." "It terrifies me." Rand's voice dropped to barely a whisper, not because of what they did but because of what they were willing to do to themselves. Nodded slowly. "Now you understand why humans are not merely another species to be. They are something the galaxy has never encountered before." Rand spent the next hour wandering the station, trying to organize his thoughts. Eventually, his path led him to the medical wing where the steadfast survivors were being treated. He hesitated at the entrance, uncertain if he would be welcome. A human nurse noticed him and smiled. "Are you looking for someone?" "Captain, if she is accepting visitors." "She is, room 7, but go easy on her. She has refused to rest since we brought her in." Rand found the captain sitting up in her medical bed, reviewing reports on her despite the bandages covering her torso and the exhaustion clear on her face. She looked up when he entered. "Observer, I wondered if you would come." "I needed to understand," Rand said. "I still do." "Set aside the sit, ask your questions." Rand took the offered chair. "How are you so calm? You lost 153 crew members. People who trusted you, followed your orders, died because of decisions you made. How are you not destroyed by that weight?" Was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was heavy with something Rand recognized as grief. "I am not calm, observer. I have not stopped crying since we docked. I have been reading the personnel files of every person we lost. Marsh, communications officer, had a son waiting for her on Earth. Torres made it through the battle, but his best friend did not. Amy Price lost her arm completely. The doctors saved her life, but she will never fire a weapon again." She paused, and Rand saw tears forming in her eyes. "I remember every name. I carry every face. They are with me now and they will be with me forever. That is not calm, that is duty." "Then how do you continue? How do you plan to go back out there and risk this happening again?" Looked at him with those steel-colored eyes. "Because the alternative is worse. If I stay home, if I refuse to fight, then the next transport full of children will have no one to protect them. My crew understood that. Every one of them knew the risks when they joined the service. They chose this life because they believed that protecting the innocent was worth any cost." Rand leaned forward. "They have a philosophy. We believe that survival is the highest virtue, that a warrior who dies accomplishes nothing, while one who lives can fight again. Your approach seems to contradict this entirely." "Perhaps it does," smiled sadly. "Humans have a different philosophy. We believe that some things are worth dying for, not because we want to die, but because certain principles matter more than our individual survival. Freedom, family, the protection of those who cannot protect themselves." "You would call that courage." "I would call it love." The word surprised Rand. It was not a term he associated with warfare. Continued, "Every person on my crew loved something, their families, their homes. The idea of a galaxy where children do not become slaves. That love gave them the strength to face impossible odds. Fear tells us to run. Love tells us to stand." Rand sat with that for a long moment. Finally, he asked the question that had haunted him most. "What are humans afraid of?" laughed softly. Everything. We are afraid of death, of pain, of losing the people we care about. We are afraid of failure and darkness and the vast emptiness of space. We are the most frightened species you will ever meet. Then how do you fight the way you do? Because we decided long ago that some things matter more than fear. We feel the terror and we act anyway. That is what humans do. We are not brave because we lack fear. We are brave because we refuse to let fear make our choices for us. Rand rose from his chair. He had what he needed for his report now, though he still did not know how to put it into words that the Galactic Council would believe. "Thank you, Captain. I will leave you to rest." "Observer's voice stopped him at the door. "When you write your report, tell them this. Humanity is not a threat to be feared. We have no interest in conquest or domination. But if anyone threatens innocent lives, if anyone tries to enslave children or slaughter the helpless, they will learn what we learned today. Humans do not calculate the odds before defending what is right. We simply act, and we do not stop." Rand returned to his quarters and began writing. His report to the Galactic Council was brief, but he labored over every word. When he finished, he read it back to himself. "The humans are not invincible. They are fragile creatures who die as easily as any other species. Their ships can be destroyed, their worlds can be conquered, their people can be killed. But I recommend that no species in this galaxy ever give them a reason to fight. I have witnessed human warfare firsthand. I watched 47 survivors emerge from a battle that should have killed them all. I watched them mourn their dead and plan their next mission in the same breath. Do not fear human weapons. Do not fear human ships. Fear what drives them. Fear their love for each other, their devotion to strangers, their absolute refusal to abandon anyone in need. I have seen many terrible things in my career. I have watched civilizations fall and species go extinct. But I have never been as terrified as I was watching humans choose to die for people they had never met. That terror will stay with me forever. And I believe it should stay with this council as well." Rand submitted the report and sat back in his chair. Outside his window, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there, humans were watching those same stars, planning, protecting, loving fiercely enough to face any darkness. And Rand knew, with absolute certainty, that the galaxy would never be the same.